Something I had forgotten to mention, I wanted to give credit where credit's due, both to Vaush and Hassan Piker, because basically they have taught a whole bunch of punk-ass socialist busters what a pimp is. Because now all these people know that they are the hoes, and Hassan Piker and Vaush are the pimps. That they worked for the money, and Hassan Piker and Vaush are just handed the money so that Pimp Daddy can tell them how to be better hoes. Now I know there's going to be people who are going to think that's vulgar and simplistic, but the beautiful part is that's so very Black American, isn't it? Because my mama black, and I know all y'all motherfuckers hoes, and that's why you're fans of Hassan Piker and Vaush, and you pay them money, and they're pimping, and you're hoeing. So now beyond that, I wanted to actually get into something that I've been thinking about ever since seeing, like, see all these, these ads for movies of this or that superhero, and now it's super gay and stuff, that Superman he's a homo now, and so now you're really seeing that the worst part about the whole sexual revolution and this idea of constantly trying to make really untalented homosexuals into Gore Vidal. All gay people. Do you munch box? Do you suck cocks? You must be Gore Vidal. You must be some. No, you must be what? Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the poet's name. One of you is going to remember it's a famous British poet who's kind of famous for being kind of, young, brilliant, and gay when he was Oscar Wilde. There we go. You must be Gore Vidal, mixed with Oscar Wilde. And so now, of course, we're seeing that, like, even those of us who we can think to having relatives like Red Foreman on that 70s show, where they might have thought your interest in anime was kind of dumb, or this or that was kind of dumb, but in some way there's something about your, like especially Gen X, that there was a bit of envy that, like, how much fun we were having. My dad envied how much fun I was having as a Gen Xer. He was really envying the diversity of my class, the fact that so many of my friends were just such different types of people, that I remember one of my homies, his dad was like, it's a good thing to have a gang, was the thing. You should always have a gang. You should always be the leader. I think that dude eventually became a cop. It's funny the kind of people I've known who ended up, I believe, becoming cops. Just a couple of people I know that I'm like, they're the oddest characters to become cops. But I just thought about that. But the present generation, like my generation, I don't envy the young at all. God damn, I don't envy these people. The music, the movies, the culture is so whack. This is not like where, you would get to see, like, the movies from the rare movie store, like Man Bites Dog and The Real La Femme Nikita. Like, everything's a knockoff now. Like a really bad, cheap knockoff. To the point that, I'm like, I'll see and hear things. This one young man who I talk to online every once in a while even showed me a group he was interested in. He played it, and I'm like, wait a second. I think this is a group trying to cover the Sex Pistols. And he's like, who? And I was like, the Sex Pistols? And he didn't know who I was talking about. And I'm like, don't you like rock and roll? How don't you know who the Sex Pistols are? And then he showed me a picture of the band. The band was literally a knockoff of the Sex Pistols. The guy literally looked like a copy of Sid Vicious, like a knockoff, kind of more clean homosexual version of Sid Vicious. And I was just like, what is this? Like, why is everything that the young, why is it that everything like the late millennials and Gen Z are into has this kind of weird gay flair to it? Like, none of it's legitimate. Like, none of the rock and roll sounds like rock and roll. It all sounds like overproduced, like weirdo music. It's all very, very, very gay, gauche, melodramatic, like people who think like theater arts are legit kind of realm. These people who that, and this is something I picked up on with millennials and mostly millennials though. I'm not really younger than that. Really, I have to be honest about it. I started to pick up on this thing of sort of these people who were raised with theater arts, but you really have to wonder how terrible their acting teachers were. Like, you have to wonder how bad they were really steeped in drama. I mean, like, because this has really come up a lot. Like that there seems to be a distinct like division. That there's just like sort of this point at which like the millennials didn't get like, oh no, what you're referring to is gauche. Like it's like no, that's done in bad taste. That's not really good. You know, like what you no that's not actually good. I know you think it's good because you think so, but you know nothing about anything that happened before about your 12th birthday, and you were never taught anything about the culture. You have no idea about almost any hit song or movie before you were born. Like, no, really. You're completely uncultured. And so that's something that really has hit me, is that there's cultured as in like there's the thing of like this thing of I'm cultured because I've eaten a lot of Chinese food at a lot of different authentic Chinese restaurants. There's that kind of thing that's way more normal now, rather than I know who Bob Dylan was imitating because I've heard Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys, and then I went and listened to the Lomax archives. So that if even you were in Greater Appalachia and somebody started playing some old song, you might know the song, even though it's not your culture. One of my favorite songs ever is the Navajo Yabachai song. I only know a part of the Yabachai song because the Yabachai song is a sacred song. So only so much of it was ever allowed to be recorded for outsiders. It's just really an interesting song. It doesn't almost apply to anything I would usually think of as the way I listen to music, but it's a little reminiscent of Pocomania, a little reminiscent of some of the Afro-Latin music I like, especially stuff from Peru. But it's its own thing uniquely. And understanding that is kind of its own thing. And I really think about that, where it's like I got the opportunity from my generation of actually interacting with a lot of older people, no matter how fucked up they were. And really, I mean, there's some people who, I mean, the best music I've ever heard in my life, I heard from totally fucked up older people. That they didn't have shit together, but they knew Cesara Avoria is a very, very good singer. They knew that La Alma del Peru Negro was a great fucking album. A lot of people I met around, quote unquote, the scene, that they're all fucked up. But I mean, there's a couple of songs that it's like I fell in love with them because the people who it was like a thing. Like this person's like, hey, I see you've got this record on you. Could you not play that one? Because I really love that song. I love playing that song every time I spin. And I could see it. Like I could see this person just lit up when Toots and the Maytals, Night and Day. Which is, I mean, that's just a really interesting song. I mean, when you hear it, the guitar is very, very interesting. And it's something that's unique to that era of time. And it really has to be understood in that context. Like, no, what that is it's a type of take on, oh, where I put my glasses? Where are my glasses? Oh, and I need my glasses. You see, some people will know the reference to the 90s. Oh, my glasses. I am the Egyptian magician. The snake, he bite my eye. Poison eye. Not many people are going to remember that. But those of you who do, you're cultured people. You remember our culture as Americans. That shit was funny. That shit was hilarious. Just like when Eddie Murphy made all those gay jokes about Mr. T. That shit was funny as hell. Just like Dave Chappelle making jokes about the black Ku Klux Klan member. That shit was funny as hell. But the reason why the young people don't understand what's funny and what's not is because they're uncultured. Period. They can't laugh at themselves. They don't really have a sense of culture that they can actually enjoy culture. They can't really. And it's because culture, it's this very limited, very banal thing that mostly has been brought to them by by their single moms, by this very safe world of uncool chicks. And that's a big one. That's really big, much bigger than I think people are going to understand for a long time. Is how uncool so many sort of really, I mean, it is Gen Xers really at a certain point, but I mean, like how uncool the late what's it called, late boomers, the latest part of the boomers and the earliest part of the Gen Xers that are where the millennials kind of really come from. And that really, it's what? Oh boy. And so that's why I was just thinking about that, like how that at this point it's almost impossible to be like, boy, those kids, they have things are so great now. I wish things were like that when I was younger. Everybody knows that one. People are going to be like, oh, you watch my boy. And so, yeah, it's... yeah, so there is no envy of these young people and, like, their incredible understanding and they're so great. And no. And how bad things are yet to be as time goes on. Soon... we're actually going to see, I think, the labor crisis right now. It isn't really going to get better, and it's really because there's just too many openings for people who are qualified. That's all there is to it. There's too much out there that is. We need people who are qualified, and now it's that kind of thing of, no, you will never import enough immigrants to do this. That will never happen. You need people who they have like multiple generations of understanding of the English language, and that like professional work is very normal to them. Like, not unskilled labor, professional work, and office work, and skilled, multiple generations skilled welding and finishing up, and being able to finish metals and stuff. That kind of thing is not something that you get from what are obviously the failed states of the developing world. That's just not the case. And this idea that there's going to be some amazing thing that's going to happen because, now we have all these random people to cut topiary and tile roofs if they could figure out how. And then there's the thing of like, do you not understand that you needed a generation of white people to hire these people? Like, where do you think all this money to hire the immigrants is going to come from? And then why would you hire people who can't speak to your customers? And it's a disaster. Like this, the level of this disaster waiting to happen, creating a permanent underclass of people who are like these leftovers from various illegal immigration invasions. It's going to be unbelievable how disastrous this is going to be for people. Like, creating this, like, people who are going to be poor as fuck for like 3 generations and speak some patois of like Haitian, Spanish, and English or something, some messy patois, and it'll take them generations to just adapt to getting along with people. They'll always have these weird behaviors that only make sense in the context of being this desperate person from a failed state, So yeah, it's one of these things, like, every once in a while I'm just sitting back, just like listening to like some of these weird auto-tune things and like these songs that all sound like Disney musical pieces, and I'm like, how are you all going to deal with how shitty everything you're into is? Like, is there anything you guys are into that doesn't sound like shit? But that's the thing, is there's no rock and roll left in them. That's a big part of it. That's a big change. There is no rock and roll left in these. I couldn't imagine what would happen if there was a movement like even somebody trying to do something like the Buzzcocks, or something like a milder version of the Clash, like just quasi-punk, even the Sonics, just doing covers. And that's another one. Like, the present generation is so divorced from what rock and roll sounds like. When they hear the Sonics, all they hear is something that doesn't sound like the audio quality is high enough. They have no idea, like, no, that's rock and roll. What you listen to is weird, overproduced gay dance music that's supposed to be rock and roll. This is rock and roll. This is definitively rock and roll. You listen to derivative, stepped on junk dope. This is the real dope. But that's the thing. I've always been hung up on authenticity. There was an ex once said that, and I actually rolled that around in my mind recently, and I was like, she was right about that. A little too hung up on authenticity, but that's the thing. That's what, because that which is not authentic is whack. It's whack, and it's full of shit, and it's gay. All right, later.